with this most recent release of the Recruitment Pass, we've seen Winton in there change to a new commander, which is Lareo, I think is the correct pronunciation. And his stats are basically the exact same as Winton, but as an infantry instead of a cavalry. His player model is really cool, to be honest. This might be the coolest model in the game, actually. I'm not sure any of these other commanders are going to beat him in a straight up fight, to be honest. I think he might be at the top of who would win a 1v1 in GoTWiC tier list. Maybe Seg, just because he's huge, but his model isn't even that big. But he's got this halberd with a skull engraved on either side of like the axe head. That's really cool. But his skills, his abilities are the exact same as Winton. His infantry attack instead of cav attack, and then the health reduction on the unit he himself counters. So of Winton it is infantry, and here, since Lareo's an infantry, it counters spearmen. And then the enemy total defense reduction as well. I think for PvP, when awakened, he'll probably be pretty strong, but right now he won't be fitting into anyone's PvP formations, even at gold over awakened commanders. The stats just aren't high enough. You'll lose all the army size, you'll lose the active ability damage, the active ability cooldown. I think anything unawakened will just be falling behind because of that. He does follow a trend like most of the recent Recruitment Pass commanders like Uma and Winton, where he has good tavern stats. He's got 4-star combat rate, takes food, so you want to chuck him all the food you have probably until max. 4-star combat rate is always good, everyone's going to be wanting that. What is he going to be used for realistically if he's not going to be in PvP? Honestly, right now I think it's just going to be tavern stats, because he won't be viable for PvP until he's awakened. And when you look at his skills, I'm not entirely sure where his place will be. The only position he could potentially slot in if you're doing rebel leaders, for example, is as tank, I think. You can't afford to drop a Sonara or a Theon or anything like that for him. He just doesn't seem to have enough damage in his kit here to justify that. And there's nothing he really specializes in at all. Like here, his active damage is pretty low. His AoE at least, I guess, but for rebel leaders that won't have an effect. Will probably be good in training grounds or werewood. But does anyone really care about that? Like maybe he could be a good training grounds commander. He has fairly low anti-heal and a fairly low self-heal there. I think the way anti-heal and similar effects like that work in this game is they don't stack. It just takes the highest instance of the effect and applies that. So if you have like him, but then gold Winton in your formation as well, Lareo's anti-heal will do nothing because Winton will already be applying a stronger anti-heal effect regardless. So he could potentially be used as a counter into like Simon in training grounds. That's probably his most realistic role, I think. And the other will probably be as a tank, maybe into spearmen or bowman rebel leaders for low spending players who don't have Enzo. And his second ability here is just a bit more damage, double damage against bows. And it's got might reduction on it too. That's not really going to be too useful. It's basically just indirectly damage reduction if you're running him as like a tank against rebel leaders. This will be very good in training grounds though, against Simon. But it's randomly applied, so it's just total RNG. You won't be able to force that to proc on Simon. But if you manage to hit Simon with that, it will do double damage and reduce his might, and he'll be hitting with his active for the anti-heal. So there's a few things there which really hurt Simon's OP-ness there. His third ability is kind of a weird ability. It's basically just extra tankiness, but applied in a very weird method. When he falls below 40% health, every attack he does will then reduce the enemy's attack, and it will last for the entirety of the rest of the duration of the fight. I doubt that's ever really going to get that much value, to be honest. If he's falling that low, he's probably gonna die, or jump back up above 40%. Maybe it will be like Enzo's ability, where if he drops below it, he'll then constantly apply this even past heals. That could be decent in something like Training Grounds for Rebel leaders. It could be good against something like 5s if it works like that, but it probably won't work like that. And the fourth ability is just extra tankiness. So I think try him against Simon as a counter in Training Grounds. Potentially try him as the main tank against Rebel leaders, especially if you don't have Enzo and you're a lower spending player. He could be decent there. I think he'll have to probably be the tank over like Lats or Tyrion or something if you're running into a Spearman. If he's good against Spear Rebel leaders, that'll be good. They're so annoying to kill at the moment because Enzo and Jean both get countered by them. But it would surprise me if he's super OP, barring any undescribed interactions of these abilities or bugs, which to be fair there often is. I think, you know, the way Enzo works, where he keeps stacking his attack even after healing, I don't think it's probably intended to work like that. So we'll see. I mean, it's a decent release. It's a very cool model. When awakened, he'll be good for PvP, and he's got the Tavern stats, so quite an interesting addition to the game. But nothing entirely game-changing in my opinion.